हेलो डियर स्टूडेंट्स, आज हम डिस्कस करेंगे एनाटमी एंड फिजियोलॉजी ऑफ ब्रेन. Brain. It is one of the largest organ in the body and coordinates most body activities. It is the center for all thought, memory, judgment and emotion. Each part of the brain is responsible for controlling different body functions such as temperature, regulation and breathing. The brain is contained in skull and weight 1300 to 1400 gram, made up of about 1000 billion neurons. 7 each neuron is surrounded by about 10 glial cells. Neuralgia. Neurons cannot multiply and many neurons are lost every day in life, but glial cells can multiply throughout the life. Brain is also covered by meninges like spinal cord, outer dura mater, middle arachnoid mater and inner pia mater. Ventricles of the brain. There are certain cavities in the brain called as ventricles. These ventricles are filled with cerebrospinal fluid. There are 4 ventricles of brain. Two lateral ventricles in 2 hemispheres of the brain. Third lies between hypothalamus and thalamus. Fourth between brainstem and cerebellum and is continuous with the central cavity of spinal cord. Ventricles of the brain. 2 lateral ventricles and interventricular foramen. Third ventricle you can see cerebral aqueduct and fourth ventricle and central canal. Parts of brain. Cerebrum, right cerebral hemisphere and second one is left cerebral hemisphere, and cerebellum, brainstem, medulla, pons, midbrain and diencephalon, thalamus, hypothalamus, epithalamus and pineal glands. This is thalamus, hypothalamus, hippocampus, pituitary glands, corpus callosum, cerebrum, cerebral cortex, brainstem, midbrain, pons, medulla, spinal cord and cerebellum. Cerebrum. What is function of cerebrum? It is the largest section of the brain. It is located in the upper portion of the brain and it is the area that processes thoughts, judgment, memory, problem solving and language imagination. Cerebral cortex. The superficial layer of the cerebrum is grey matter and this is 2 to 4 millimeter thick called cerebral cortex. Contains billions neurons. During embryonic development, when the brain size increases rapidly, the grey matter of the cortex enlarges much faster than deeper white matter, so as result cortical region rolls and folds upon itself. The folds are called gyri or convolutions. The deepest grooves between the folds are called fissures. The shallower groove between folds are called sulci. The most prominent fissures, the longitudinal fissures, separate the cerebrum into right and left halves called cerebral hemisphere. Each hemisphere has 4 lobes. The cerebrum is subdivided into the left and right. Both hemispheres are connected by a bridge of nerve fibers that relay information between 2 hemispheres called corpus callosum. This is longitudinal fissures and left brain divided into 2. First is right hemisphere, second one is left hemisphere. This is sulci and frontal lobe, gyres, central sulcus, parietal lobe and occipital lobe. Left hemisphere controls right side of the body and right hemisphere controls left side of the body. Both are opposite. Lobes of cerebrum. Frontal lobe, parietal lobe, occipital lobe and temporal lobe. There are 4 lobes. Frontal lobe we will deal one by one. Most anterior portion of the cerebrum under forehead. Central circle separate frontal and parietal lobe, control motor functions, पर्सनालिटी एंड स्पीच। जो फ्रंटल लोब होता है मोटर फंक्शन के लिए मोटर फंक्शन को कंट्रोल करने में हेल्प करता है, पर्सनालिटी एंड स्पीच। लाइक सेंटर ऑफ रीजनिंग, प्लानिंग, सम पार्ट ऑफ स्पीच, मूवमेंट, इमोशंस एंड प्रॉब्लम सॉल्विंग, ऑल्सो कॉल्ड एज मोटर कॉर्टेक्स। Parietal lobe, the most superior portion of the cerebrum, top of the head, receives and interprets nerve impulses from sensory receptors and interprets language, receives sensory input from the skin, touch, pressure, temperature and pain. Parietal lobe आपका टच के लिए होता है, प्रेशर एंड टेम्परेचर एंड पेन, ऑल्सो कॉल्ड एज सेंसरी कॉर्टेक्स। Occipital lobe, the most posterior portion of the cerebrum, back of the head, receives input from the eyes and control vision, also called as vision cortex. Temporal lobe, the left and right lateral portion of the cerebrum on the sides of your head above your ears, control hearing and smell, also called auditory cortex. Function of cerebrum: motor functions like control of voluntary movement, sensory functions like perception of pain, temperature, touch, hearing, taste and smell, control of intelligence, speech, memory and learning, etc. Cerebellum, second largest portion of the brain, located beneath the posterior part of the cerebrum. A deep groove known as transverse fissure separates cerebrum to cerebellum, aids in coordinating voluntary body movement and maintaining balance and equilibrium. External structure, the external surface called cerebellar cortex look like butterfly constricted area called vermix. The lateral wings or lobes called cerebellar hemisphere that is interconnected by a narrow portion called vermis. A part of the human brain that lies in the posterior cranial fossa inferior to occipital lobes. 10% weight of the entire brain, 50% of neurons. Divisions and layers of cerebellum: anterior lobe, both regulate subconscious aspects of skeletal muscle movement. Posterior lobe, anterior lobe and posterior lobe both regulate subconscious aspects of skeletal muscles movement. Flocculonodular lobe on the inferior surface maintain equilibrium and balance. Superficial layer of cerebellum called cerebellar cortex consists of grey matter, series of slender and parallel folds called folia. Deep to grey matter, white matter called arbor vitae resembles to branch of tree. Even deeper white matter are cerebellar nuclear region of the grey matter having axons carrying impulses from cerebellum to other part of brain. The sagittal section through the vermis, showing the internal organization of the cerebellum and the location of the three cerebellar pedicles. This is midbrain, anterior lobe, arbor vitae, folia, cerebral nucleus, cerebellar cortex, posterior lobe, coral plexus of fourth ventricle, जहाँ पे CSF fluid बनता है, that is coral plexus of fourth ventricle. And lunar lobe, lateral view, spinal cord, medulla oblongata, cerebellar pedicles, superior cerebellar pedicles, medial and inferior. Cerebellar pedicles, three pairs attach the cerebellum to brainstem. These bundles of white matter consist of axons that conduct impulses between the cerebellum and other part of the brain. Superior cerebellar pedicles is a paired structure that connects the cerebellum to the midbrain. Middle cerebellar pedicles connect the cerebellum to the pons. Inferior cerebellar pedicles is a thick rope-like strand that occupies the upper part of the posterior district of the medulla oblongata. Function of cerebellum: coordinate contraction of skeletal muscles, regulate posture and balance, may play a role in cognition, learning from experience, and language processing. Brainstem consists of three parts: midbrain, pons, medulla oblongata, superiorly continuous with diencephalon, inferiorly continuous with spinal cord, posteriorly pons and medulla is separated by fourth ventricles. Midbrain, pons and medulla connected to cerebellum by superior, middle and inferior cerebellar pedicles respiration. Midbrain, the midbrain or mesencephalon extends from the pons to the diencephalon and about 2.5 cm long. It acts as a pathway for impulses to be conducted between the brain and the spinal cord. Associated with vision, hearing, motor control, sleep, wake, arousal, alertness and temperature regulation. Screening of information before it reaches high brain structure. Parts of midbrain. Anterior part called cerebral pedicles, posterior part rectum, contains four rounded elevation swelling. Functions of midbrain. The midbrain serves important functions in motor movement, particularly movement of the eye and in auditory and visual processing. Dopamine produced in the substantia nigra and ventral tegmental area plays a role in excitation motivation. The midbrain helps to relay information for vision and hearing. Pons means bridge connects the cerebellum to the rest of the brain, lies between midbrain above and medulla below in front of cerebellum. Like medulla, it also sensory tract, motor tract, contains nuclei that deals with respiration, swallowing, bladder control, hearing, equilibrium, eyeball movement and facial expression, etc. Medulla oblongata, lowermost part of the brainstem and continuation of the superior portion of the spinal cord, situated at the base of the skull, starts from foramen magnum and extend to the inferior border of the pons, a distance of about 3 cm. The ascending and descending sensory and motor white matter tract nerves connecting brain to spinal cord pass through medulla oblongata. It's very important because many regulatory centers are located here. The cardiovascular center regulates the heart rate, force of heartbeat and diameter of blood vessels. The medulla rhythmicity center responsible for maintaining basic rhythm of breathing. The vasomotor center regulates blood pressure, other vomiting, swallowing, cough, hiccuping and sneezing, etc. 5 pairs of cranial nerves originate from the nuclei located in medulla oblongata. Diencephalon. What is diencephalon? Posterior part of the forebrain that connects the midbrain with the cerebral hemisphere, encloses the third ventricle. Thalamus contains mass of nerve cells. Thalamus means inner room in Greek, as it sites deep in the brain at the top of the brainstem. The thalamus is called the gateway to the cerebral cortex, as nearly all sensory input pass through it to the higher level of the brain. It makes up 80% of diencephalon. Importance: relay station for all incoming sensory nerves from periphery spinal cord with different impulses of pain, temperature, touch, pressure are conveyed to thalamus first, then go to cerebrum. This information is relaying from thalamus to cerebrum through thalamic nuclei. Median geniculate nucleus related to hearing, lateral geniculate nucleus related to vision, ventral posterior nucleus related to taste and somatic sensation like touch, pain, pressure, cold, heat, vibration, etc. Hypothalamus. The hypothalamus sides under the thalamus at the top of the brainstem. Although the hypothalamus is small, it controls many critical bodily functions. Control autonomic nervous system, center for emotional response and behavior, regulates body temperature, regulates food intake, regulates water balance and thirst, controls sleep-wake cycles, control endocrine system, controls central venous system, regulation heart rate and BP. Epithalamus and pineal gland. Epithalamus is a small region superior and posterior to the thalamus. It consists of pineal gland. Pineal gland is about the size of the pia and protrudes from posterior midline of the third ventricles. It is an endocrine gland, secretes hormone melatonin. Darkness stimulation the pineal gland to secrete melatonin. It promotes sleepiness. The cranial nerves. 12 pairs of cranial nerves named because they pass through bones of cranium and arise from the brain inside the cranial cavity. These nerves may be sensory, carrying impulses to the brain, motor, carrying impulses from the brain to periphery or mixed containing both sensory and motor fibers. This is cranial nerves. Olfactory for smell, optic for sight, oculomotor moves eye, pupils, trochlear moves eye, trigeminal face sensation, abducens move eye, facial move face, salivate, and vestibulocochlear hearing, balance, glossopharyngeal taste, swallow, vagus heart rate, digestion, accessory move head, hypoglossal move tongue. This is 12 cranial nerves. Thank you.